Fucking hell. Sorry, guys. My bad. Wow, that sucks. Thank you for letting... I had my mic on mute. I didn't even realize I had it on mute. Can you hear me now? We should be good, right? Should be good. I was all sitting here praising you guys while I'm sitting here acting like an idiot talking to myself. Whew. Well, what I was saying is welcome, fun speculation. And I was saying that you guys are freaking awesome because, you know, no heads up, no new big thing, no new big news or whatever, and no reason, you know, other than wanted to talk some Xbox talk, random stuff. It was a huge week we had this past week. And I just kind of felt like going live and talking stuff with Xbox and gaming and stuff. And whether you got a notification on YouTube or whether you just saw I was going live or you saw the tweet I put out right before I went live, whatever, thank you for being here. Because we already got like over 20. So we got 30 people here now, just impromptu style on a Sunday night, 9 p.m. my time, 10 p.m. Eastern time, and all that kind of stuff. But you guys rock. Thank you for being here and wanting to shoot the shit, right? Shout out to everybody that's here already. Sub Sirve, Nate Dogg, the Sousa, Talos Re, Raid Zafar, Toolman, Andrew Collinane, Grumpy Shaman, mozamshmeek. What's up? How's it going? Let's see. The Sousa, what's up? How's it going? Yeah, you guys rock. We're gonna have some fun chilling, talking Xbox and stuff. Grumpy Shaman says, thanks for the streams. I have insomnia, so thanks for the entertainment. Hey, I hope you find it entertaining, you know. There's been lots of assault the last week. Obviously, there's been so many reasons for so many to be salty. I've been trying to emotionally recover from the beatdown the Cowboys took tonight. We can blame it on injuries. 3 offensive linemen out. Trayvon Diggs out for the season with a torn ACL. We can blame it on that, but honestly, the Cardinals played a hell of a game. There ain't no reason the Cowboys should get into the red zone like 5 times and only come away with the amount of points that they did. So that defense for the Cardinals held up, and they played a hell of a game. And the Cowboys made some big mistakes and just didn't quite show up. But Doc says my voice is easy to fall asleep to. A fan says, thank you, man. Can really use some fellow Xbot time. I seen you during my refreshing of homepage. Right on. However you guys discover the channel, I really appreciate all the support. You know, it's been a really fun few years, and just to know that you can just impromptu go live without any notice or plans or whatever, and people show up to hang out means a lot. And you know, it's been a week. It's been a hell of a week. I mean, it started with some leaks that came out with more redacted stuff. From Tom Warren back on like Monday. Then Tuesday or Monday night going into Tuesday, we had the massive leaks that went down. Biggest leak in gaming history, biggest Xbox leak in history, showing what their at least plans were from 2022, 16 months ago or so. Then we have the CMA preliminary approval go down as well. What a week for Xbox. It's been such a good week for Xbox. You have people running with crazy narratives about Xbox gonna shut down in 2027. You have people saying things like posting old Jim Ryan interviews from 2022. Like, I've seen so many interview segments and quotes from Jim Ryan. I'm like, is there a new interview? Like, did I miss something? But then, no, I just go and look, and it was from a 2022 thing, stuff we covered last year. But for some reason, the salt around Xbox is so much that people have to dig to 2022 when Xbox was down and Jim Ryan was lying again about the subscriber base and all these kind of things to try and find ways to bring salt towards Xbox. Absolute crazy week, man. Absolute crazy week. I don't know if, I mean, obviously Xbox has had massive weeks, especially 2020 and 2021. They're on a roll with a lot of that stuff, right? 2022 was insanely quiet, mainly because of the ABK deal. Besides the ABK news, that was really not much else to talk about. Not a lot of game releases, all that kind of stuff. This year's been nonstop Xbox again. And I don't really know if there's been another week that's been like this with the amount of different things. It's created a lot of discussion. So much discussion that now people are so upset that they're trying to convince people that Spider-Man is an RPG, Ghost of Tsushima is an RPG, Horizon Forbidden West is an RPG, just to convince people that PlayStation has a variety in their lineup. It's been crazy, man. This is like, I think there's a lot of people that are down bad after the ABK news came out with the CMA. They've been holding on to the last hopes. The CMA was going to come through. They were going to let everybody know that Xbox can't get the ABK and stuff, but then they lost that too. So there's been nothing but really positivity around Xbox this week, unless you're somebody trying to mix it up and throw out some bullshit, even 2022 interviews. It's absolutely crazy. Those interviews from Jim Ryan talking about, all the 2022 interviews, talking about, I've met with all the publishers out there, and they all hate Game Pass. Ha ha ha. We have a great subscription service. We have 50 million subscribers. Game Pass only has 25. Stuff like that. This crazy comments, which actually came from basically an investor's call, where he's basically lying to his investors about a Game Pass and what that was at. Because we all knew that when PlayStation switched to PlayStation Plus Essentials, Extra, and Premium, they just rolled their PS Plus subscribers as Essentials and then counted them now as the PlayStation Plus subscription service. Even though Essentials really gives you no subscription with gaming, it just gives you the cloud saves and the same stuff it did before. It's the same thing as basic PS Plus, so that you just have to have that to play online, right? But there they were comparing 50 million of that to the 25 million people that actually paid more on top of the Xbox Live Gold for an actual gaming subscription. And then now Game Pass Core, if you want to say they did the same thing PlayStation did with combining their subscribers all into one main tier system within Game Pass Core, Game Pass Standard, and then Game Pass Ultimate, you can look at it as like, yeah, now Xbox probably has like 80 million subscribers or whatever to Game Pass. Like they took the confusion out of it by making that move. And the PlayStation can no longer run with their fake subscription narrative about having more subscribers than Game Pass. What's up, Dave? How's it going? What's up, C Money? Luis Jose, Def Leopard is here hanging out. A fan says Party Animals is fun. Pretty much non-stop laughing for me. Controls way better than the other sticky finger games. Laughing, thinking about it, playing it right on. What's up, Micah Ford? How's it going, Micah? Hope you're doing well. Void Rat, what's up? 3:09 a.m. there for Void Rat. What are you doing up? I don't know. What are you doing up? What's up, Alvin? How's it going? Alvin is amazing. Amit Kumar, how's it going to you too as well? C Money, I just got done. I was watching quite a bit of y'all's show earlier with Dave, Retchery, C Money, Doodle, Fuzzy was there as well. God, y'all had a big panel tonight. It was awesome. I can't remember everybody that was there off the top of my head right now, but yeah, it was a good show. Duke to go, what's up? Did Quack and LaMarcus come back? I don't think they're here. Infinity Doc says, I want to be on whatever Jim Ryan is because he's basically said Bungie is equivalent to 69 billion. Whoa. Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting, that thought, right? I don't understand that. I mean, Bungie equivalent of ABK. If last time I checked, Call of Duty makes a lot more money than Destiny. So I don't know where Jim's got those numbers. I didn't see that, but that's crazy. There's been a lot of salt out there. The CMA thing for me was actually the biggest news, even though we all kind of expected somewhat of that going down. The actual seeing it come from their mouths, you know, with no fanfare, no emoji storm, you know, nothing like that. Just plain old, yeah, preliminary approving it, but it's Xbox's fault why we didn't already do it in the first time. It's what they're doing to save face. Yeah, but now we're looking at the future, right? And we already got a glimpse of the future with that leak. So we had the big leak. Now, if you think about it, and kind of what I wanted to do is take a look at like where we're at, you know, because there was even more news that came out today. A Special Nick had said some stuff which I'd already heard behind the scenes. I'm not going to tell you who from, but and there was also rumors before about a licensed game from Bethesda. And I think Skullsy's originally one I heard that from, and then somebody else had told me some stuff behind the scenes, and I'm not going to say who it was, that they had heard about Disney being involved with Bethesda, and they had actually thought that that announcement might come at E3 time when it didn't. So there's something cooking, right? I don't know exactly what it is. We did see Star Wars Outlaws, which was a Disney-owned IP, actually, or Disney-owned licensed game, right? Show up at E3, but seeing the leaks, this and Special Nick said it today as well about hearing that the Bethesda game might be from the Disney family. I had put out a tweet based on what I had heard, based on that Special Nick saying that, and then based on now Skullsy's old rumor as well, that maybe this is a Disney game, and it would make sense, right? Because if Bethesda have done a deal before, and when they got Indiana Jones, maybe they did a multi-game deal, right? Maybe they did a multi-game deal, and on that leak, we see Indiana Jones and a licensed IP game without saying what it is. Now, if it's Disney, you know, there's already lots of Star Wars stuff out there. Would Bethesda release a Star Wars game while they already have Starfield? Like, that is that in a way like them doing too much in the same genre? Like, personally, I don't know. Like, I think it would be fine, right? Star Wars is amazing IP, and there's going to be lots of people excited if Bethesda makes a Star Wars game. But for me, I'm thinking it might be Marvel. Nate Dogg says, I think it's the Roundhouse game. Yeah, I think so too, actually. I was talking a bit in the DMs before with the FunSpec fam about that. And, you know, the ZeniMax Online, I think, is making the other game that was mentioned, the Project Kestrel, which that could potentially be like a Starfield MMO. But if I look at it and I say, okay, Bethesda's making a multi-game deal or whatever, potentially at the time, you know, see Indiana Jones. The other thing I would say is maybe the other game was for a Marvel IP. Now, I've already seen some people say, well, you know, Sony, you know, they got Marvel on lockdown. That shit ain't true. Sony does not have Marvel on lockdown. Amy Hennig's new studio, Skydance, is making a Marvel game. They're making the Captain America Black Panther game, right? We also have a Iron Man game from EA that's in the works as well. We already saw that Marvel did a game with 2K recently, Midnight Suns. They've done games with Square, Marvel's Avengers, right? Guardians of the Galaxy. They're willing to play ball, right? So it could very well be a Marvel game. And the question is, if it's Marvel, what is it? And that's where your mind starts to go to a million different places. The other thing, and I got to shout out to Jasper that had seen this, and he looked at the leaks as well, is the projections. That leak actually had projections for like the first quarter. Those games are out, and they had this Marvel game or this Disney IP game at around $5 million less projected in the first quarter than Indiana Jones. So that's around the same ballpark. That makes me kind of look to it and think it's a single player based, story based kind of game. Roundhouse would be an interesting studio. Yeah, like Luis Jose, they come from Human Head Studios. And Human Head actually has a history of making a lot of different games in the past. I'm going to bring up their list now because I was looking at this before. The Human Head was made from a group of 6 developers from Raven back in the 90s, back in 97. They had went on to make, let's see, Rune. They made Prey in 2006. That's the original Prey, right? They made Brink, which was a multiplayer Bethesda game. I actually liked Brink. It failed, didn't live up to expectations. Fort Courage is another game called Defiance, which is also, that was based on a show, and that was a multiplayer game. You have a game called Minimum Lost Within, which was a Amazon Game Studio published game on mobile. Dungeon Defenders. If you all remember Dungeon Defenders, this is Dungeon Defenders 2. The Quiet Man, which was a published by Digital Extremes. It's an action adventure beat 'em up game. Then they had Rune 2. So canceled was that Prey 2 game. Y'all remember that Prey 2 game that was talked about for a long time and stuff and never came out? That was a Human Head Studios game. So they have a history of doing single player games. They have a history of doing multiplayer games. And they could be, which we know that Bethesda was excited about the Roundhouse game because during the roundtable when Xbox acquired Bethesda, they didn't have Roundhouse there, but they mentioned them and said they were excited about a big project that Roundhouse was working on. That's also the time they had talked about ZeniMax Online as making the biggest game they've ever made, and they're super excited about that as well. So there's 2 big questions, right? Like, what is ZeniMax Online working on? Is it a Starfield MMO? Is it something else? And then also, what is Roundhouse working on? We already kind of, with the leaks, got an idea that id might be making that Doom Year Zero game. So that kind of puts them into an idea of what they're probably doing. Machine Games is obviously making Indiana Jones. So there's not a whole lot more questions about projects except for those studios. And we got to remember, though, that these leaks were, for the Bethesda side, was back in like 2020 when Xbox was actually making the pitch to investors to acquire ZeniMax Bethesda, about the value of their properties, the roadmap, and all that kind of stuff, right? So lots of interesting things with the leak. And now it's like, what is that other game? And is that going to be a big one that's going to get announced next year? It would not surprise me. Do they announce that at like a developer direct as well? You know, we got a shadow drop at the developer direct this past year. There's also another IP out there that Scalzi had found before, some kind of spy versus spy game at Bethesda's ZeniMax. So shout out to Scalzi for finding that. Who knows if that's still a thing or not? But that's another one we can kind of think about and be curious about. And is that maybe ZeniMax's game? I don't know. Lots of questions about what ZeniMax Online's working on. I think Project Kestrel is probably that game of ZeniMax Online, just because the way the leaks looked. It said like a year after there's gonna be an expansion, right? And the other games for like story-based games and stuff, they kind of list as DLC, like Starfield. So expansion leads me to think that it's going to be a ZeniMax Online game, right? But then the whole license game is a completely separate game, and we don't know who's working on it. What's up, Nathan Hardman? How's it going? Mino Bueno, how's it going? Let's see. We're catching up with the chat. Sousa says, if Doom Year Zero was a new classic Doom with the old style graphics, that'd be amazing. That'd be pretty cool. I think they're probably going to push things forward and keep pushing things forward with Doom. With Doom, I mean. But we'll have to see. Callie said you didn't get the notification. Oh no, YouTube screwing us again, right? Yeah, we're gonna be eating good, C-Money. It's crazy. You know, all this talk about like Game Pass and stuff, especially with that Jim Ryan stuff, it's like, I just don't get it. I don't get the lack of comprehension and understanding and the ignorance to what Xbox has. I was listening to a clip on Twitter. Somebody was ranting and raving about Xbox having no games again. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Did you exist was your mind even like, were you awake at all in 2023? Xbox had so many damn games. Meanwhile, this was on a PlayStation focused show. And what games have they been playing on PlayStation this year? I have a PS5. I've been waiting for the big games that I'm excited for from the PlayStation first party. Nobody from that side is actually talking about this. It's crazy. How can they still, after the year that Xbox had, with all the games they've been releasing, with more games still to release this year from Xbox first party, come out and still lead the narrative and talk on these shows and act fake upset about Xbox having no games when they're should be talking about the platform that they love in a year when they had no fucking games. What did we do on this channel last year? We called Xbox out for their 2022. People were getting upset in our chat for it, right? We were saying it's ridiculous. Like they got to do better. They can't put themselves in a situation. Yeah, they had a lot of bad luck. We talked about the things that happened that put them in that place, right? But we were saying they can't let that happen. They made bad decisions in the past that had led them to the situation that Xbox was in last year. We had called all that stuff out. But this year is insane. We've gotten so many freaking games. It's nuts. And that doesn't even count all the third-party games that are either exclusive or in Game Pass Day 1 and all that shit. It's nuts. The Sousa says, I can play Horizon 2. You know, I didn't beat it. Oh, I personally, I tried playing the first Horizon several times and I just didn't get into it. Like, I have no issues with the Horizon game. I can say it's a good quality game. I can see why people love the game. I'm not going to knock PlayStation for making it. I think it's a good game. That's just not for me. That's a difference between people saying a platform holder has shitty games and a platform holder has in games that necessarily aren't for you or that what you're looking for. There's a big difference, but some people equate things to like, hey, if they don't have something I don't like that I like, if they don't have something I love right now, then they're shit. They're like don't deserve to exist or whatever. And I feel like a lot of the mentality from a lot of those guys are only looking for one kind of game. That's why they hated the PlayStation Showcase so much. Because there was nothing there that they got them excited at the PlayStation Showcase. There was none of their kind of games, right? Meanwhile, Xbox was releasing tons of games that I'm super into. You had 2 different Age of Empires drop on console this year. You had Hi-Fi Rush drop this year. You have Forza Motorsport dropping this year. You had Starfield drop this year. You had more remasters like Quake 2 drop this year. You even had stuff like the GoldenEye thing and stuff like that drop this year. You have third-party games dropping day 1 this year, left and right all the time. There's even too much to even list. All in a subscription service that they don't think has a right to exist because for some reason, somehow, they think that it's worse than theirs, that it doesn't even have any damn games day 1, not even their own first-party games. Where's Gran Turismo? Why is Gran Turismo not in PlayStation Plus? It's insane. I don't get it. Game Shark with the $5 super chat says it's denial. They'd rather live in a comfortable delusion than accept reality. This is why they've made fun of so much. It's the cope and denial. That's why they're made fun of so much. Yeah, I agree with that. It's like an oblivious, oblivious to the reality of the situation. To actually see the roadmap of Xbox that lasts up until 2030. And just actually see that, where you see that they actually have plans. They're going to release another console in 2028. They have goals of reaching 100 million subscribers, and this is their path to try and achieve that. We know that they have plans to do a refresh with the discless Xbox Series X next year. They have a new controller coming, all these different things. And yet the talking point after that came out was Xbox is going to shut down in 2027. What? Get your head out of your ass. It's not a safe place to put your head. Get it out of your ass. Alvin with the $5 super chat. says, in the past month on social media, I've seen one Baldur's Gate 3 clip from a Sony account. Just one example of the haters being hypocrites recently. Yeah, and they couldn't even run with the great game. They have a timed exclusive right now, that whether it's not like because of Sony or whatever, but Baldur's Gate 3 is an insanely good game. I have it on PC. I fucking love the game. I have like 47, 50 hours in it, something like that, around there. The last I remember was 47, and that was just for Act 1, right? I took a break from it, been invested in Starfield ever since. Because of technicalities and all those reasons, whatever, PlayStation had that game first, and they were trying to use it for console war nonsense, propping it up, saying how, you know, Xbox can't play this game, and Xbox doesn't have this game. Oh, we're gonna play the shit out of this great banger of a game, which I agree it is. But then none of them even fucking bought it. If you're gonna console war and you actually want to try and talk shit, you want to try and say PlayStation has all these games and stuff, then play one. If you got it, play it. I'll be playing it on Xbox, as I know a lot of people will. Then they run out with a false narrative again, and this is not just from content creators, but actual articles and journalists that don't even know what the term second run means when they're in the games industry, and try and act like Microsoft was trying to say that Larian was like a second-class studio, the Baldur's Gate 3 was like a second-class IP, second-class game. That's not what it fucking means. Get a clue. Somebody with some smarts and intelligence actually speak on behalf of that community. There has to be a savior there. Who has intelligence that's going to speak actual factual information from that community? I am waiting. What's up, Doodle? How's it going? Spartan661, what's up? I like GT on PS 1, 2, and 3 on the PS 1 and 2. Yeah, I love Gran Turismo. I do love Gran Turismo. It's no Forza. It's no Forza. Like, Forza graphics are better. Forza gameplay is better. There's something like unique about the Gran Turismo games. It's just like the stupidity of being able to bounce off the walls and the jazz music and all this like weird grindy stuff that still like scratches a old school nostalgia gaming itch for me. So I still love that. It is what it is, right? However, Forza beats it in like every category, and we're about to get what people are already calling that even journalistic websites and all this kind of stuff are calling Forza Motorsport might be the best looking racing game ever made. And it's not even out yet. We're about to get that shit soon. We're about to get it soon. Yeah, Gran Turismo didn't release feature complete. In fact, they had a lot of issues at launch with like a lot of this stuff. But again, no criticism, no clapback, right? You could say there's more clapback and criticism about Forza Motorsport over just like decisions before it's even released from that community than Gran Turismo ever got when they actually launched the damn game. Incomplete and with some weird decisions, right? Like, Forza is going to be fucking fantastic. I'm really excited for the reboot of Forza. It is going to be a true live service game that's going to develop and get better and add content over time. There's going to be so much awesomeness for years to come with Forza Motorsport. But yeah, to act like Gran Turismo is even in the same league now as Forza is just delusional. Like I said, I like Gran Turismo, so like this is not a knock against it, but like Forza's owned the racing genre for over a decade. Over a decade, Forza's owned the racing genre. They own not just the simulation racing genre, they also own the arcade racing genre. Forza Horizon 5 had just broken 32 million players in a arcade racing game. That's insane. Meanwhile, let's say people don't play games. Meanwhile, they said Bethesda was going to be hurt by being exclusive in the Xbox ecosystem. Meanwhile, there's still articles coming out saying Elder Scrolls 6 can't be exclusive on Xbox because it'll be bad for the franchise. Well, guess what game just had the best launch in Bethesda history despite all the hate, despite all the clickbait articles, clickbait reviews, clickbait bullshit, trying to bring it down. What game just had the best launch in Bethesda history, also not on PlayStation? Starfield. To think Xbox needs PlayStation? Xbox needs Elder Scrolls to be on PlayStation? They don't need shit. The only reason it was even a remote possibility for a short period of time was the question of what was going to happen with the ABK deal and what kind of remedies or whatever the CMA might force them to have to do. But once the PlayStation was out of the picture and they said PlayStation was irrelevant in the console space and it was all about the cloud, that was done. Elder Scrolls exclusive. They've already said it. They also came out in those same documents again. Elder Scrolls exclusive. Elder Scrolls 6. You think the Starfield hype is real? You guys think the Starfield hype is real? You want to talk about the future of Xbox? You want to talk about the lineup? Just wait 3-4 years now until Elder Scrolls 6 comes out. And that game is going to be insane. That game is going to do numbers. Starfield's already doing numbers. Starfield's already crazy. For me, it's a masterpiece, genre-defining game. I feel like some people don't get it. Some people are lost the thought of what a Bethesda game is, right? Some people are looking for a space sim exploration experience. That's just purely what it is. But like they said over and over and over again that this game is a Bethesda game through and through. That's what always sold me on Starfield. That's what always sold me on Starfield, a space Bethesda game. Not a No Man's Sky type game. A space Bethesda game. And for me, that's exactly what we got with Starfield. Starfield is, I've said it a few times now. Right now, if you were to ask me, this is no lie, Starfield is my favorite game of all time. It is scratched an itch in me that I didn't know I have. Pause. I'm obsessed with it. My wife is obsessed with it. And I really honestly think there's never been a game like Starfield, and there will never be a game again like Starfield until there's the next Starfield. Yeah, what? A Bethesda game plays like a Bethesda game? You mean there's like skills and you can't just do everything from the start and like you actually walk around and do things and have quests and stories? And I tell you, the people that are having the most fun with Starfield, and I'm not the kind of person that tells people how to play their games. If you play the game however you want, right? But the people that are really truly invested and are loving Starfield for everything that it is are the people that are getting lost in Starfield. You just get lost in it. You go do random shit, and just on the whim. Oh, you know what? I feel like I'm gonna go try that out. Little do you know, it's been 10 hours now, and you've been doing shit that doesn't matter to any grand scheme of anything, right? It's not advancing you in the story. It's not completing side quests. It's not completing missions. It's doing what you decide to do for the character and the role that you're trying to play within the game. And you feel like you've achieved something with the advancement of your playthrough, your story, your game. And the people that are really finding all those ins and outs of Starfield and trying all these different things and then playing the game the way you want to play are the ones that are really lost in it and are appreciating it and loving it the most. The Pong Souls of the world, who hasn't even touched a damn story mission yet. Pong's got way more hours than I do in Starfield. Dude hasn't even done a fucking story mission. The only thing he did was he did the first thing just so he could go wherever he wanted. That's it. That's it. He hasn't even played a story mission. He doesn't even have any companions. He runs solo. And this is his favorite game also. Favorite Bethesda game ever, he says. And we're talking about a big-time Bethesda fan, just like I am. They've done something that I feel like is not really getting the respect that it deserves as far as the ambition of what they've created. Remember when everybody was concerned? Yeah, Kate, my wife Kate, has more hours in Starfield than I do. Like, holy shit. She's playing it right now. I'm live being a dumbass, feeling like I want to talk games and stuff because I get the itch to do that and hang out with you guys, right? But like, so what she wants to do is play Starfield, right? Like, it's amazing. Like, I really feel like it's not getting the respect from some of the articles and everything that are out there about what they've actually achieved with the game. Like, the scope and ambition of what they created. Remember, everybody was concerned about barren planets that you can't do anything in. There is so much damn stuff to do on these planets. I'll land on a random planet. After scoping out the different planets, I'll pick one. I'll land there. There's either going to be some ship land nearby that has some people there and they need something or whatever, or there's going to be stuff to do, stuff to scan. There's unknown locations. There's really cool shit to find. There's loot to get. And then among all of this stuff to do, you take a step back and realize this is just one random spot among how many that you can land on a fucking planet? On one planet, just think about this. On one random planet, you can pick thousands of different landing spots if you want to, right? You can explore, you could really play Starfield for hundreds of hours and only play on one planet and find endless amounts of shit to do, right? Now you take a step back from that. Then you go like, okay, how many planets are in this game? The absolute scale and scope of this is absolutely crazy. And to not only do it what they did and achieve that with fun, quality gameplay. Good shooting mechanics. It feels fluid. The game is gorgeous. It's insane. Yeah, Void Rat says over 80 hours I only started outpost building. Yeah, I just really yesterday I was like, you know what? I'm going to start farming for resources because I need to get some aluminum and I need to get this and that. So I just like, I'm going to build a little habitat here and put a thing. I'm going to find a planet. I found a planet that has iron and aluminum, which is like two key things you need for outpost building and for stuff building in Starfield, right? And I was like, okay, this is going to be great. I built the outpost. I'll walk around all over the place. I discover locations. I farm and source aluminum and whatever. I build my outpost up a little bit. I get the extractors going, the cargo thing going, all that. I link it all up. And then I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to go make another landing spot and get the other material that I need here. I'm going to farm that too. So I create two landing spots with two different outposts on the same planet. Come to find out, you can actually share cargo between those. So you set that up and you just start building upon that. And you realize you just spent all fucking day doing outpost building. And you haven't even scratched the damn surface of that. It's insane. You can really play this game however you want. And it can be the game can be as much of it as you put into it, right? It's absolutely insane. I don't think a lot of people actually have played. I think a lot of people have played this game for like 70, 80 hours and just played through the story and some of this faction stuff and just done that stuff over and over again and just New Game Plus over and over and over again and still don't actually really have a true comprehension of how big Starfield is. And meanwhile, Xbox gets no credit for it, obviously, because it was a Bethesda game, right? The game's insane. I still can't believe the lineup we're getting. Forza Motorsport, a month after Starfield. We're getting Forza in like, 12 days? Something like that? Let me count the days. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 days. We're getting Forza Motorsport in 10 fucking days. Raid says, will I get MK1? I will get MK1. I will get it later when it's on sale because I can't stop playing Forza. And the only other thing I have the itch to play right now, to be honest with you, until Forza comes out, is Cyberpunk. I did get Cyberpunk on PC. I booted it up and I played through the intro segment. I played through that just to see what it looks like, and oh shit, it's gorgeous. The update is amazing. It looks so freaking good, and I'm gonna love it. But I went right back to Starfield. I will get back to Cyberpunk at some point. You know, Cyberpunk will probably be kind of like my just to mix it up thing here and there for a while, right? But then after that, it'll be it's just Starfield and with Forza. It's gonna be crazy. Yeah, you told me, C Money. What you don't understand, C Money, is I got a serious FOMO problem, and normally I would have gotten Mortal Kombat already. There is not a Mortal Kombat that I haven't bought at launch since maybe forever. I don't know. I mean, thinking back to when I was a kid, I got those at, like, right away also because of like freaking Mortal Kombat. This could be like, this honestly could be the first Mortal Kombat game I haven't gotten in at least within the first week of launch. Ever. I love Mortal Kombat, but right now, honestly, it can wait. You know, like Starfield's just got me. It's got me. The JW Universe says this one just feels like MK11 2.5. Right on. Yeah, I'll get the Mortal Kombat when it's on sale for sure, and I'll have fun with it, you know. But right now, it's just like I got other games I want to play. I got another game I want to play. I should say that. I got another game I want to play. Are y'all hyped? Is anybody here getting Spider-Man 2? When does Spider-Man 2 come out? I got to look it up because I forget. It's like late October, right? Or something like that. Spider-Man 2, October 20th. Oh, that's me and my wife's anniversary. Spider-Man 2 comes out on our anniversary. That'll be easy to remember. I'm actually probably going to get it. The last trailer had me a little hyped. I didn't really get into Miles Morales, but I did like the first one. But I don't know, maybe it's going to end up waiting too. I don't know. It is going to be ultimately more of the same, right? But like more of the same is, am I going to be scratching, is it going to scratch that itch that I had for 2018? I don't know. You don't own a PS5? Yeah. Well, honestly, this past year, there hasn't been a damn reason to own one. Don't got a PS5? Will y'all buy a PS5? Would y'all buy a PS5 for Spider-Man? I mean, honestly, you think about the pipeline for PlayStation. There's not much, right? They got Spider-Man, then they got the Final Fantasy Rebirth coming, which I'm honestly excited for that because I like those kind of games. But yeah, no way, hell no. Right on. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Play what you like, play what you love what you play, as Pong Soul says. I shout out to Pong, by the way, because he wasn't feeling well last night. He had missed the shop. And I know he wasn't feeling that great today either. So shout out to Pong if you're listening, or if you catch this later. I hope I start to feel better, bro. You were disappointed in content on Diablo 4, dude. Micah, I gotta be honest with you. Me too, man. Did they reveal the season 2 stuff yet? Like I'm a huge Diablo guy. I love Diablo. Season 1 was kind of just like, got boring pretty quick. It felt repetitive and boring, and like I didn't really get into it. Season 2, maybe they'll get me again. I know that they said they were gonna have a big stream to reveal that, and they said it was gonna be so big, so much stuff that they had to have 2 streams. right? But I fucking love Diablo. It's a great game. It's another franchise that Xbox is about to own. So if you haven't got Diablo, if you've been tinkering around with the idea of getting Diablo, it is a great game. It deserves a playthrough, at least through the main campaign and main game. But you know what? It's coming to Game Pass eventually. So you could just be patient and wait for it to come to Game Pass. As soon as this ABK deal wraps up, which should be early October, maybe first 2 weeks of October or so, maybe we'll get news about when it's coming to Game Pass shortly after that. Starfield every day for you, Spider-Man. Right on. Spider-Man 356. You're not getting Spider-Man. Yeah, probably gonna do a bundle for what, Alvin? You mean for Final Fantasy or for Spider-Man? Because they have the Spider-Man console. Ghost Fixer says I'll probably get Spider-Man 2. It'll be more on my backlog this year. I'm more hyped for more Mario this time around. That's the thing with those games too. Like on PlayStation, like I will go back and just get those games later a lot of times. But I don't feel like I need to be day one because I'm not really missing out on anything. You know, they'll just be there and it'll probably be better even later. So getting them later, if you can even get it on sale, is kind of something I usually do with those. Like Spider-Man 2018, I think I got it like within the first week or so that it came out, but I just kind of dabbled with it. There was a lot of other games I was playing at the time, and then I played it like the next year and really got hooked into it, right? So I do that with games a lot also. I'll go back to them. And maybe I haven't decided if I'm getting Spider-Man 2 day one or not. I was kind of more interested after the last trailer they had, but I don't know. Like with Forza coming out, I'm still going to be hooked into Starfield. I still would rather play through Cyberpunk 2077. And then there's other games still coming out too. Like we're getting another Assassin's Creed, right? It's insane this year. And then it's not really going to stop. Next year is getting crazy too. They're already loading up the lineups for next year. 2024 is going to be nuts. And for all those people that for some reason still think Xbox had no games this year, which they've released like 10 first-party games, next year is going to be just as nuts. 2024, you're going to probably have Hellblade 2. You got like Avowed. Flight Sim is getting a new release again. I mean, it's fucking crazy. Yeah, like probably 4 or 5 big releases on Xbox next year. And then that's not including the other games, like third parties, you know, all that kind of shit. Star Wars, and you got big third parties. Like I'm really looking forward to Star Wars Outlaws. Yeah, this ABK acquisition is going to change things so much, guys, that like it's really hard to put into perspective and really think about it too much, because as much as crazy good as this pipeline is already for Xbox, it's about to get that much crazier. Like, what does Activision have cooking? What else do they have? We don't know, but we will. Even if you think about the other games that don't really get a lot of conversation from Activision, right? Let's take a look at what games released this year from Activision Blizzard. I'll just look at the Activision side. List of Activision video games. All right, let's go to 2022 to present. All right, so we had so this year you had Crash Team Rumble released. Is that it? That's from Toys for Bob, besides Modern Warfare 3 coming out. So like a release like Crash Team Rumble, you would have that again, right? Like games like that. Let's see, what else do they have? You had 2021, they had Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2. 2021, they also had Crash Bandicoot 4. In 2020, they had Sekiro from Software. Was actually published by Activision. What if they were guys, just think about this. What if they announce a Sekiro 2 and it's exclusive to Xbox? That would be nuts. Before Sony gets Bloodborne 2? Yeah. Would From Software allow that? Why not, Luis? They've done lots of exclusives before. Right? That's the question. Like, if they get the money for making the game and it's published from the Activision side, like, regardless, even if it wasn't exclusive, right? Even if Sekiro 2 was announced and they made Sekiro 2 and got From Software on board and they developed it, even if it was multi-platform, right? It would be coming to Game Pass day one. And it would be Xbox marketing all over that shit. The amount of salt be insane. Oh, but guess what, PlayStation guys? You can get it with Ubisoft Plus. Ubisoft Plus in the cloud. You can play it in the cloud. If you don't want to subscribe to Game Pass, you go to subscribe to Ubisoft Plus. You can get it and play it in the cloud. If you don't want to get an Xbox and you don't want to, or you don't want to buy it for $70 or whatever, you get go play it in the cloud on Ubisoft Plus. How about that? Think they'll be happy with that? Playing Sekiro in the cloud? Yeah, you get it, guys. Just go, boot up your cloud service. Just boot up your cloud. You can play it too. So you got a good value subscription, or you can buy it locally for $70, or you can just subscribe to Game Pass and play it natively on an Xbox. I know what I would do with my wallet. Same with the next COD. All that shit. But we're gonna get more Crash games. They'll have all that stuff. All that stuff's gonna hit Game Pass. Let's say they bring back other games like Spyro. Let's say there's another Tony Hawk game comes out. All that kind of stuff. It's crazy. But I gotta say, Activision, I have a feeling they're gonna pick up their pace on new games. They gotta get away from this just like only Call of Duty scenario, and I think Phil will want that from them. There's too much valuable IP, and if they don't use the IP, then they'll find somebody who will. More licensed games, maybe they'll do that too. That'd be absolutely crazy. Now let's see from the Blizzard side. Blizzard just released Overwatch 2, which is free to play. So that doesn't necessarily really matter. Diablo 4. We know they have a survival game in the works. That's a new IP. There's heavy rumors about StarCraft 2 as well. StarCraft 2 exclusive to Xbox and PC. What if there's a StarCraft? Was it StarCraft Ghost? Or whatever that other game they were going to put out before. Diablo 4 is going to go to Game Pass, and that's going to have ongoing content for a long time. Hey, you're curious what Infinity Ward's new IP is? Yeah, that's another one. I forgot about that. Yeah, Infinity Ward has a new IP. Isn't it like a space game too, or like an RPG or some shit? I can't remember. What was the rumors about the Infinity Ward game? Or I know that it wasn't necessarily rumors. They started a whole new studio for it. New Infinity Ward game. Rumor. Okay, open world RPG game. Like a Destiny-like Infinity Ward game. Is what the rumors were. I completely forgot about that. And that's like what they formed the new studio for, right? Whew. And people are worried about console sales. I'm sitting here thinking about the damn games we're going to get to play the next few years in Game Pass. Somebody said was it the last stream we did that somebody says I bang Game Pass? Maybe I do bang Game Pass. I don't know. That shit's looking good. I mean, Game Pass is crazy. All those fucking games next, like, you're good. You could live off a game. If you're a gamer, really, you could just subscribe to Game Pass and be happy. I could just play games on Game Pass and not need anything else, to be honest with you. Like, I still, like, as a gamer, I do buy other things and, like, want other games and stuff, too, like, quite a bit. But, like, if I didn't have the means to or didn't, like, care about that, I'd be completely happy with Game Pass. I could just subscribe to Game Pass and have endless amounts of shit to play all year. We had Payday 3, you had Lies of P. There was another big one that hit this week too. Party Animals. You had Starfield just hit. Before that, you had Sea of Stars hit. So many damn games. You had third parties like this year, like Wo Long hit. You had Hi-Fi Rush hit this year as well. Day one. For the people that like it, Redfall. Personally, I'm going to wait until they make it better for me before I get into it. But yeah, Redfall. You have so many different fucking games they launched this year, and we're still not done this year. We get Forza Motorsport, and then we also get JRPG fans get 2 Persona games, Persona 3 Reloaded and Persona 5 Tactica. And then we just had Yakuza games announced that are coming to Game Pass. More. Yeah, you got Fist and Bramble. This is actually a good game. I had played it on PlayStation when it came out because I was looking for something to play on there. And I had some credit from the bundle I had to buy. Yeah, Gotham Knights just hit Game Pass, right? Don't sleep on Gotham Knights, everybody. It's a good game. If you don't mind 30 frames on console, like it's really good. If you got a PC, it's coming to PC Game Pass also, and that shit is amazing on PC. It is so good. But it's great. It's a really good game. The story's awesome. The combat's a blast. Really good stuff with Gotham Knights. That game did not live up to the potential that it had for WB, but I think it's going to be thought of as a good game for a long time to come. It's really fun. Speaking of WB, you know, it also came out with those leaks that Xbox, which we already knew before that they had discussions with WB. Do y'all think WB Discovery would be on the table for them in the future? Because in the leaks, it said that Phil had said that the tricky thing was if they had acquired WB, they wouldn't get the IP. But what if they buy the whole shebang and get WB Discovery? And all those rights to everything. No, not please. It's not this discussion again. Man, it was acquisition speculation. Let's go. ABK is done. It's done. Xbox is done playing weak. They can go and buy whatever the fuck they want now, right? They can go buy everything. They go buy Nintendo. Go buy Nintendo. Which was another fake conversation that was brought around. Again, people pointing to Phil's explanation on why they can't buy Nintendo as the fact that Phil actually would like to buy Nintendo. Of course he would. So would every other publisher in the world. WB is an interesting case now, though, because their movies have been struggling. Their subscription service, Max, is down at 25% subscribers since they've made the change to Max. Their next big game is Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. I'm curious how Mortal Kombat 1 is selling. I'm sure it's selling fine. But are they going to be in a position of strength going forward? And I feel like when we look at acquisition targets from Xbox, first we start in the East and look there, because that's what they've already hinted at what they'll do next, right? But besides that, we look at companies that are in a weaker spot, right? Companies that are a little down. And like Ubisoft is off the table a little bit because of that deal that they made. I think they can't acquire them for like 10 years or some shit like that. I don't remember the exact rules behind that, but you got to look at companies where the value is good, right? Because that helps the sales pitch to your board and everybody when you're proposing this acquisition. Like, look, we can get them for this much, and we propose that they're actually worth this much. Like, we saw that they actually valued Bethesda ZeniMax at 10 bill, but they got them for 7.5. So when you look at acquisition targets, you look at, okay, companies that have taken a big hit financially that might be more susceptible to want to entertain an acquisition, or you look at where their targets are as far as growth in different markets, and sometimes combining those two is the best idea. So that's why you throw companies like Square Enix on the table. But WB Discovery's down. Their movies have been not succeeding. Their subscription service is down. The only bright spot for them has been the games. But how long is that going to hold them over, right? Beforehand, they were looking at selling off their gaming assets. Then it seems like they felt like they needed to keep them because everything else was struggling so much. So at what point do they say, like, this is a failed endeavor and we might look at getting sold to another company? Now, there was already a lot of smoke out there about WB Discovery and Universal already having a backroom deal like set up for the future. So Universal potentially go and buying all of WB Discovery after the time passed where they're allowed to be acquired again, but after becoming a new entity. But who knows? Maybe Microsoft could get in the mix there. Either Microsoft could get in the mix. You could have another big publisher platform get in the mix as well. What I wouldn't want to see happen is like Apple buy WB Discovery. That would be kind of like, you know, Apple controlling DC. I won't lie, though. Apple TV has been kind of fire, so maybe they would get it right with some of the DC content. I don't know. But besides that, I don't have a lot of faith in Apple and what they do with their stuff, right? So, a Spartan661 with the 5 says, with the Activision deal going through, Prototype's engine could be awesome to see a Spawn game. Xbox can get the IP, having Spawn's cape to do miracles. Actually, a good thought. Yeah, RSJ fan says, I don't see them buying WB. Yeah, that would be like a crazy situation, right? I mean, that would be like another massive deal. And it would be hard to pull off. Also, like after this whole ABK thing, maybe it wouldn't be. I don't know, but like I know that they're in a susceptible place as far as like their market value and stuff, right? Let's see, what is their market cap at? I'm looking this shit up. Yeah, they're at like 27 bill right now. And if we take this out to the past year, where are they? Oh, they're down, 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 down. I'm trying to find the right information for WB. Okay, it says around 27 bill. Let's look at 1 year ago. Oh yeah. Oh my god, they're so far down. Oh my god. Let's look at what it was. They went down from like recently, I mean just since August. They're down from $14 a share to 11. And if you go back further to April, or February, even where they're at their highest, on this list at least, they were at 16 something down. They're down from 16 something per share to 11. Yeah, I mean they're not in the best spot, right? I mean that's basically what I'm getting at. So does that mean they're more acquirable, but less? I don't know, right? And Spider-Man, and that's like more than just the games. That's like WB Discovery. I mean, you're talking about DC. You know, you're talking about all the other properties that they own from WB. You're talking about Max, the subscription service, getting thrown in there. You're talking about the game studio, all this shit, right? All the IP wrapped into one. You know, yeah. I mean, they could afford it. Is it too big of an acquisition for them to go after just completing a $70 billion acquisition? That would be crazy. And the other thing you got to look at is it like everything that they're looking for in a publisher right now. So it's like, man, I personally would love it, but I don't know if it makes sense for them. Remember the rumors last year about them going after Netflix? You remember that shit? Netflix. And this was not from like content creators and stuff. This was not from like people in the Xbox community. This was from like financial people, right? That Microsoft might go after Netflix next, which was like crazy to think about, right? But that was like earlier this year, last year, sometime when that started going around. Let's see. But if you look at prime targets, speculation wise, I'm gonna stay on. Even though as much as I would love for them to acquire Sega or Capcom, you look at Square. You talk about meeting the needs, right? Square is down, so they're a good value right now. Square has lots of studios and IP. Square has a big mobile presence in the East. And there's also all of a sudden this stronger partnership forming again with Square as soon as it seems like they're wrapping up with ABK. Now, a lot of that's because of the new president there and the new man in charge at Square. But to see it all kind of lining up with this new Xbox partnership kind of thing they're going with, hey, we're putting our games on Xbox, all this kind of stuff. What would be the fallout online on social media from the PlayStation community if Xbox announced in, like, let's say like January of next year, an acquisition of Square Enix, a proposed acquisition of Square Enix in January next year? Yeah, Chris, you've been on the Square train for forever. I gotta give Chris Jones credit. Back in the day, I didn't see this, but you got the foresight, Chris. I gotta give you credit, bro. You were on the Square Enix train before anybody else. I also got to shout out Hargeet Chani, who was on the Square Enix train when we had him on Xbox Ultimate a few months back. He was also laying out the reasons why Square Enix made sense. It was like, oh, I'm talking Sega, talking Capcom, all the Bandai Namco, all these like things that I want as as an Xbox guy and stuff. Like, oh, it'd be great. But you got to look at it like the reasons why it makes sense, right? Sega's not down. Sega's in a great place right now. So Sega's good. They're not looking to be acquired. And they're also not in a position where they feel like they need to be or anything like that, right? You look at Capcom. Capcom's doing fucking amazing right now, right? Capcom's doing great. They don't need anything. Bandai Namco, they're doing fucking fantastic. They don't need anything. So with Xbox's MO of looking at companies where, they're kind of more at a good value. Was it just come out after the last financials that Square Enix, since Final Fantasy 16, which just came out recently, since Final Fantasy 16 came out, they're down 30%. 30% since their last big game. So you look at that, all of a sudden, Square Enix like, hey, yeah, we got a great relationship again with Xbox. All right, let's show up at Tokyo Game Show and talk about how our future is going to be releasing games with Xbox. Let's go ahead and announce Octopath Traveler 2 coming to Xbox. Let's talk about all this other stuff, right? Like, all of a sudden, you see all this shit. All of a sudden, it also coincides. ABK is wrapping up, right? What lines up perfectly? Now, will Sony get in the mix, right? Let's say that Square Enix puts it out there or that Microsoft makes an offer. Then at that point, Square has to try and get the best offer they can by shopping it around, right? If Microsoft makes a proposal, right? Their board or whoever's heading the negotiation and all that stuff has to go and try and get other bids and stuff, just like ABK did. It all came out with their when they make the announcement of the deal, they have to lay out all out there, and it became public about the course of action that led to the acquisition. And they have to shop, right? At that point, they have to try and make sure that they're getting the best deal possible, right? So Microsoft makes a proposal. At that point, Sony, do they panic and try and get in a bidding war with Xbox? Who loses that battle? I don't know. I think Sony might not have quite the amount of cash that Xbox does. And Square Enix is, you talk about chump change. When we're talking about WB Discovery earlier, I mean, that's not really chump change for anybody. $30 billion roughly. Like that's a lot of money, right? But you look at Square Enix's market cap right now. Let's see where they at right now. They're at 4.2 bill. 4.2 bill. to put this into perspective and follow this trend for Square, since they've been more aligned with PlayStation and doing a lot of exclusives and stuff on PlayStation since like around 2020. 2020, they were at 7.24. 2021, 6.12. 2022, 5.48. 2023, right now, they're sitting at 4.2. You talk about being down, talk about being in a acquirable state financially. Keep your eyes open for that. You never know. Froggy says, what about Microsoft buying all of Embracer Group? They are hurting bad. Embracer Group is a mess right now. There's so much with Embracer Group. I feel like they have so many moving parts. It's dynamic. They have so many studios. They have the Lord of the Rings IP, which is crazy. They bought that last year. What's funny, if you really think about it, what did they get the Lord of the Rings IP for, like a couple bill or something like that? And then that's also the amount of money that they didn't get from their partner that was supposed to save them financially and stuff. Maybe they want to take back buying the Lord of the Rings IP. I don't know, but Embracer Group has Gearbox. They have so many studios. But if I was Microsoft, here's what I do, right? After this ABK deal closes, my immediate attention is to getting Eidos Montreal and Crystal Dynamics. You make the offers, what you need to do to buy those. You acquire also, you bring over the Tomb Raider IP. Yeah, I see it. Red Monkey Butt says they sold Tomb Raider TV rights to Amazon. Like Amazon is publishing the game as well. But Microsoft, I believe, could still purchase the IP. I don't know 100% there, but you get the Tomb Raider IP, you get Crystal Dynamics, you get Eidos Montreal, you get the Deus Ex IP, right? You also get make an offer for the Lord of the Rings IP. Why the fuck not? Get them to throw it in. They're down bad right now. Embracer Group needs the money, right? You throw those different things out there. You try and make a pitch to Embracer Group for the things that you see of value from them, and make them an offer they can't refuse for that shit, right? Why not? You know, why not? If you're Microsoft, you see Embracer Group, you can do two things. You can be their savior. You can be the savior of Embracer Group, but you can also save a lot of these studios that are getting layoffs and cancellations and all these different things. You can go and save the studios, and in turn, you give Embracer Group an influx of cash, and that publisher is saved, and they can go and do their own thing. And then also, you know what? Like, those are just studios and some IP. It's not going to follow in any kind of regulatory issues. The end says Wolverine is coming. Santa Monica is cooking something. The Last of Us 3 is also coming. Are you like not live with us? Are you caught up at the beginning of with the PlayStation conversation? Because that's just a really random comment. We're sitting here talking about Crystal Dynamics and Embracer Group, and we've been talking about WB Discovery and Square Enix, and for some reason you're talking about PlayStation games. I can't wait for Wolverine, by the way. Thanks for bringing it up. Yeah, I'm sure it's going to be great. But that's just weird timing. Calorie says the Hollywood strike might be over. So, but basically, what I would do is I would look at it and I would make Embracer Group an offer they can't refuse that saves themselves from having to like completely collapse and do all this other more layoffs and closures and stuff. Gives them an influx of cash. You take some of the studios that are already working on your projects. Remember, it's not just Crystal Dynamics working on Perfect Dark. It's not just Crystal Dynamics working on Perfect Dark. It came out earlier this year. Eidos Montreal, via rumors or leak or whatever, is actually working on Fable as well. So you have two studios within Embracer Group that are in trouble somewhat, because Embracer Group's in trouble, that are attached to Microsoft IP development right now, and you don't want to harm that. I say that Daryl Gallagher, who is head of the initiative, would probably be super happy if Microsoft acquired Crystal Dynamics and Eidos Montreal. Save those studios. But while you're at it, you're making this money offer to Embracer Group. You say to them, I want Lord of the Rings. I want Tomb Raider. I want Deus Ex. If we're getting these studios, we also want some of this IP. Now, what you do then is you take the Lord of the Rings IP for the games, and you start throwing that around like, hey, Obsidian, you want to work on a Lord of the Rings IP? Hey, anybody, Activision, Blizzard, you guys want to work on Lord of the Rings games? Hey, any of you other Xbox Game Studios guys want to work on anything Lord of the Rings? You put some of these studios in charge of making like a Lord of the Rings RTS again. Could you imagine World's Edge? Lord of the Rings, like Age of the Empires type shit going on, right? Oh my God, there's so much potential. There's so much potential there. I say you try, you go after Embracer Group and you make them an offer for those studios, but you try and get some of that. You try and get some of the best IP out of it also, right? And we know IP is somewhat important to them because Phil, had talked about that within the discussions of WB before, right? Yeah, you could have RPGs. I mean, you got fucking some of the best RPG developers in the world at Xbox. All of a sudden being able to make Lord of the Rings games? Come on. Instead, we're getting shitty games out there like Gollum, right? That's what's happening now with the Lord of the Rings IP. We're getting fucking Gollum, right? Save Lord of the Rings, save Crystal Dynamics, save Eidos Montreal. What was there was one more of those Western studios, I feel like, that I'm not thinking of. Go out and get those. Then once you complete that and announce that, and remember that shouldn't be under any kind of major scrutiny or anything, right? You go after that. Yeah, Legacy of Kain too. Go out and get fucking Legacy of Kain. Why not? It's got to come with a bundle of IP. You go and then you do Square, right? So at this point now, you got ZeniMax Bethesda, you got ABK, you got a suite of studios from Embracer Group, you get Square Enix. I agree. Then you're also making other individual studio acquisitions along the way. A certain Affinity, Iron Galaxy. Phil doesn't even probably need approval to get those things. He can probably just be like, you know what? If it works for you, it works for us. Let's do this thing. They've been locked up. ABK has had them shackled from doing this stuff, guys. That's about to come to an end. The shackles are about to come off, and you're gonna hear the anti-consolidators cry. You're gonna hear it, especially if Square Enix happens. I don't think you'll hear it if they buy individual studios like Certain Affinity, Iron Galaxy, like you mentioned, which I think those extremely make a lot of sense. And you won't hear it from the Embracer Group stuff. If they buy Square, you're going to hear the outcry from the anti-consolidators out there, the Colin Moriartys, the Jason Schreiers, all those guys are going to be crying again, and it won't matter. Because guess what? PlayStation has such a huge market share in Japan, and there's really nothing else majorly there that's anywhere near in the realm of what a Call of Duty is. You could say maybe they try and do something with the cloud with remedies again like that or something. You know, they already have the ballpark and roadmap for that. Just follow the same path, right? Amit Kumar says Dan Stapleton would rather see studios shut down than seeing them get saved by Xbox. A lot of people would. It's really a fucking shame. I don't get it. Like, I don't get it. What's so wrong with us getting more games in the fucking subscription service and more and publishers getting more security, developers getting more security? A lot of these publishers are struggling right now with this AAA gaming world, right? Like, they're having to rely on a lot of other types of ideas and models and are afraid to make new IP and all these things. It takes a lot of the concern off with the subscription service, right? About having to get a certain dollar amount back on return on investment type situation because the whole metrics are different, right? It's a different world. It's not just about the quality, it's about the quantity and variety at that point as well, right? You got to Game Pass is, in order for it to grow like they want, they need to have as much content in there as possible. Yeah, and as a consumer, I'm all for that. Like, imagine like being like a subscriber to Netflix or something, and they buy some random studios and shit. Oh man, I'm sick of them buying these studios and giving us content in our subscription service. What? Like, nobody's crying about that, you know? Like, doesn't happen. Black Knight says, as long as they come to Game Pass, I'm happy. Yeah, me too. Right? So you look at things like, okay, so what do we need to do? Like, what makes the most sense for us financially? What is it going to add to us? Is it going to grow our consumer base? All these different aspects. They are looking at all these different avenues, right? How much do we rely on them for development? How much is it important for our IP and our brands? Like, I feel like there's certain acquisitions that meet different necessities, right? Like, you brought up the certain affinity in Iron Galaxy, right? So for them, it's like, okay, we have a need for these studios because they're attached to our IP and we can't risk losing them, right? Iron Galaxy could be the future of Killer Instinct on Xbox. Certain Affinity is locked in heavily with Halo, and they're also working on another IP for Xbox. You look at all these scenarios, those feel more of like a need, and you can't risk losing those studios, right? Imagine Certain Affinity gets bought by Sony or acquired by Sony, and they're a support studio, and they make and help Bungie and the other Sony live service games, right? Instead, and then they're forced to stop working on Halo and Xbox's other projects. That would be bad for Microsoft, right? So that's, for me, like, okay, you go for that. You get Certain Affinity. Also Iron Galaxy, like the Killer Instinct, they're the proven Killer Instinct guys right now. So, you know, they're working on it again. Maybe tie them up and allow them to also make another project. Then after that, you know, you look at the targets that are actually going to grow the consumer base, and that's where you look at like Square Enix adding their library, those developers, the mobile gaming side in Japan and stuff like that. That's going to help grow the consumer base in markets where you're weak. It's also going to help ensure that you don't miss out on games like you have been in the past. That fills that need. And then you look at things like the Embracer Group stuff. That fills, I think, both, because you can acquire the IP that's going to help grow the consumer base as well, but you're also going to get those developers that are kind of a necessity because they're also attached to some of your games right now. Mr. Nichols says Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, the battle of the $1 trillion gaming services is next gen. Hardware is being made everywhere, like ROG Ally, Steam Deck. The battle is Amazon, Microsoft, and Apple. Yeah, I agree, and that's what Microsoft talked about a long time ago. I mean, their short term thing right now, looking at it, has been the short term looking at it for right now has been like the Sony's and stuff like that, but long term they know that it's Apple and Amazon and stuff like that, right? Like they're not oblivious. They know that those are the companies that have the money, and Apple is making a push now with gaming, right? We saw it with the Apple 15 announcement with their Apple 15 high-end Apple 15 device, Pro Max, whatever the fuck it is. And they're pushing gaming as like this is a native gaming device, and you're going to be able to plug it into your TV with a controller and play it just like a console. They showed like a demo with Resident Evil and stuff. So like they're making a push there. Amazon as well has Luna. They're also Amazon's getting more into publishing. So Amazon has like games that they're publishing now that are going to go multi-platform and all these other things. So they're really learning, Amazon is, and they're growing within the business, right? But Apple is like really trying to make a push to sell these things, right, as like high-end gaming consoles. Like they're going to say Apple's trying to say you don't need a console. You just buy our games through our store and you'll treat it like a console, right? So it's interesting, the different philosophies out there. The thing is, it's crazy, is like Apple makes more money on gaming than anybody does, pretty much, because they're mobile store. It's real interesting what's going on, you know. I mean, and Apple is probably at some point, if they really push this, they want to start making their own content. You know, they're going to start acquiring companies and stuff in gaming space. And if you're Microsoft, you're looking at this like, okay, we need to make sure we get ahead of that and not allow them to utilize their huge ecosystem, right, of billions of users to get access to all those games. I'll say Apple is probably the most dangerous company in gaming right now. Tiny screens will never be as cool as 75-inch TV. Yeah, but if they actually get these things to a point where they have like an Apple TV device or like this, and you can actually play the games like, and they look like they do on a console, it's an interesting thought. You know, Apple is wanting in on the bigger gaming space right now. They're not going to be happy just being this like mobile storefront for like mobile games. Like they're killing it, but they want the bigger picture here, and Microsoft sees that, and they know that's where the future is kind of going. Like all these other handheld devices and all these things. That's what we saw on the roadmap for Xbox. All these other devices. It's not just about the console, right? It's not just about PC. It's like all these other fucking handheld. There's like a renaissance right now happening in gaming of versatility. You have the Steam Deck I feel like the Steam Deck kind of really started this whole thing, right? Steam Deck took off. You have, you know, Logitech G Cloud, you have the ROG Ally, you have Razer doing something, you have all these other companies all doing these different devices, and there's going to be more coming. There's going to be a ton of them, right? And Microsoft's like, we got console and PC, and we're now in mobile with the cloud and stuff. But I feel like Xbox feels like they want to be native in the handheld space, which right now the only method there is ROG Ally. So I think there's stuff coming that's going to be very interesting regarding that. Who knows? We saw it was on their wishes and hopes to have a handheld. They also talked about making their own gaming device for phones, right? Kind of like a backbone. It's just no end to the thought about where all this stuff is headed. But we know Microsoft's goals are ambitious, and who's got a lot of money? Apple, right? So, could you imagine if a big game publisher got announced as purchased by Apple and acquired by Apple? Yeah, that's right, Victor. The question, like, for me, it doesn't work great for me. I agree. Like, it's because I got to use my phone for other things, so like I don't want to have it hooked up to a TV. But there's gonna be a lot of people that don't mind doing that. Imagine this though. It's just a thought, and I don't know if this is already what they're doing. I didn't see their demo, but let's say you do take your phone, right? Let's say you hook it up to your TV, dock it. You have your gaming headset on, Bluetooth or whatever, and your controller. Let's say your calls just pop up on the screen and you can accept a phone call and you're just there with your headset and you accept it while you're gaming. It would be seamless at that point. Maybe you can text message through it that way also. Like they have this whole dashboard implementation kind of like Xbox does where these things pop up and you interact with it with your controller, right? Could you imagine that? Like, maybe that's what they showcased. I don't know. But that would take the concern about docking your phone away. Meanwhile, your phone's plugged in and charging. So you're not worried about battery life. Only question I got is, what do they do about the heat? You know these fucking phones get hot when they play games, right? They get fucking hot. Especially when they're plugged in and you're playing. So how are they going to handle that? That's the question. You'd have to undock your phone when you got to go poop. Yeah. That's funny. Yeah. What amount of salt would happen? Let's imagine like 2 years ago, right? Or 3 years, whenever it happened, 3 years ago. Imagine that ZeniMax Bethesda had been announced as being acquired by Apple. Oh, fuck. There would not be a lot of happy people out there. I wouldn't be. Imagine that timetable, right? If that had happened. Imagine Starfield playable on your phone via docking mode or via Apple TV or whatever the fuck they do. Like, come on, right? I don't want to live in that world. And, maybe one day, like 10 years from now, we'll be looking at it and be like, I was stupid for thinking that I didn't want to live in that world. This world's pretty awesome. Look at all this awesome Apple games and all these other things going on. I don't know. But right now, I foresee that as shit. I foresee it as horrible. I don't want any part of it. I want Nintendo, PlayStation, and Xbox to thrive. I want the big three to be the players in the gaming space for the hardcore big-time games and PC, right? And I want those ecosystems to thrive because for me, that's how I feel like we're going to get the best experiences. And whatever model these companies work out for each other, I can criticize and say, this isn't for me, this isn't for me, I don't like this, I don't like that. But I'm in a much safer place as a consumer if those three continue forward and whatever models work for them to make it, right? I feel like Sony's got to get shit together to make it forward in the future. Like, I understand they're fine now, but like in the future ecosystems out there, you're going to have that cross-buy, cross-progression, like all this other kind of stuff in the ecosystem. You're going to have to have that storefront on PC. You're going to have all these different things. And right now, they're just have been way too slow at getting all this shit implemented. The C money, I kind of look. It may sound crazy. I don't necessarily disagree with that. Like, Sony will most likely get bought by a big dog like Apple or Amazon. It could happen. People say it'll never happen. It could happen. I think it'd be hard for Apple to get an acquisition or Amazon to get an acquisition like that through. You see how hard it was for Xbox to get ABK through. Like Apple and Amazon acquiring Sony would be on another level. However, you look at it as like that's the regulatory environment we're in now. And maybe in the future, it's not as strict of a regulatory environment, depending on who's in control of all the different markets, right? Who knows? Yeah, they don't have any skin in the gaming world, though. But they do because they have a duopoly in the mobile store space. Google and Apple are the only two players in the mobile storefront space right now that are worth a damn. And they are actually, if you look at like Apple gaming revenue. Apple, this was in 2021. Apple ranked third in gaming revenue amongst global public companies, just behind Sony and ahead of Microsoft. The iPhone maker pulled in an estimated $15.3 billion in total games revenue throughout 2021, an increase of 17.7% year over year. So in 2021, they had 15.3 billion in gaming revenue, ahead of Microsoft, and right behind Sony. So you're talking about the number 3 player in gaming revenue acquiring the number 1 in gaming revenue. Or number 2 in gaming revenue acquiring number 1 in revenue. I think that would be hard. Because you remember in the all the regulators and all this stuff, with all the questions and all these things, they saw it all as one market. You remember the mobile space, native console, all that space is its own market. Except they decided for some reason to differentiate cloud gaming. I would think Amazon would be the most likely, because I think it would be just as hard for Google. Google and Apple would be hard for them to get it through regulatory approval. But Amazon might be able to do it because they're nowhere near the others in the gaming space. Yeah, and I wouldn't want it to happen either. I mean, Amazon is kind of like an interesting conversation. You know, Amazon obviously would have, you know, Sony branding all over the place with their consumer electronics, right? You would have their Sony picture stuff would all be implemented into Amazon Prime. And you would also get a huge player base on console, which you already started publishing games on and also you get to put those games in maybe your own news subscription service, Luna, right? And now you make Luna more native. You know, you just implement Luna into PlayStation Plus somehow. I don't know, but like, yeah, I agree that Sony needs a sugar daddy to compete long term. Yeah, unless they decide that they're relegated to a specific place in the gaming market and they're going to be happy staying there. But we already know from all their internal stuff has come out and also with the interviews, they're not happy staying there. They said themselves they need to branch out past the 150 mil user base, right? They can't keep selling the same 150 million consoles year after year, or at generation after generation, to the same consumers, right? They need to branch out past that. There's been like a cap at that, right? So with Apple getting in the mix, Microsoft expanding, Microsoft has more users than Sony does already, and that's growing as well. It's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be an interesting space. It's all evolution, right? That's why I always like all the anti-consolidator people out there and all this kind of stuff. Like, you're not understand what you're fucking talking about, right? Like, this is all evolving. It's changing. It's dynamic. Gaming's always been dynamic. There's so many new companies forming all the damn time. Big publishers form up randomly. You have new games come out that from developers you never heard of that all of a sudden take off and it becomes the hottest thing in the world, right? You have publishers that used to be a publisher, a smaller publisher, become a massive publisher because of one hit. Then all of a sudden they get into PC storefront space, like Epic, right? Like, it's always been a very dynamic space. And like, you have all these people like, oh, you can't acquire this because it's going to be the death of the gaming. Fuck you. You have like one random Joe Schmo developer who's no-lifed it for 5 years because he had a dream of making an amazing game, create a game, and it becomes fucking billion-dollar franchise. This shit happens all the time. Like, it's crazy to think, but gaming is a very unique space with that. Like, there's not a fear of consolidation with the taking away the ability for people to be able to create games and put them in storefronts, right? That's not a thing, you know? Like, there's not a limited amount of people that have access to tools to make games. There's big players in the space that have big IP, right? There's only so many of those right now, but there's always more. And that form, and when Activision Blizzard gets bought out, there'll be another company that gets bought out. There'll be another company that gets bought out. And guess what? There'll be other companies that form. There'll be other studios that come together, form new studios. There'll be other developers that leave and create new studios. There'll be all this stuff. It's very dynamic all the time. And you're going to start to see the other big players buy other studios, and it creates openings, and then more studios form. It's just what's happening. There's so much investment in gaming now. It's just like the biggest entertainment out there. Like, as far as revenue goes, it's the biggest in entertainment. Like, it surpasses movies and TV, sports, everything. Video games is number one. It makes sense why everybody wants to get the content, the IPs, the developers. That's an asset. What we should be asking is, why aren't some of these platform holders doing more for the consumers and pushing things forward more? Like, that's what we need to be doing. Like, I look at it from a me perspective. What do I get out of it? What do I want? You know, and what do I get to play? What's my value? What's my bang for buck as a consumer? And if a acquisition improves that experience for me, I'm happy. If it doesn't, I'm not. If I'm a PlayStation consumer and I only own a PlayStation 5, I say, okay, well, that would kind of suck if Xbox gets something. But you know what? Then you look at it and you think, well, actually, you know, all those games are actually staying multi-platform. And there's also going to be other features implemented into them now because of Microsoft's ecosystem, where there's cross-buy, cross-progression. Oh, and you know what? Maybe I go ahead and do just get an Xbox because, you know what? It's going to be such a fucking good deal. Like, why not? Like, and then you look at it like, well, if you don't want to, then don't. Like, there's no use in complaining about it. They're not literally taking anything away from you. Instead, I would just be like looking at the bang for the buck I get as a consumer, and I'd be asking Sony to do more. What is your answer? That's what I would be asking. Like, what is your answer, Sony? What are you going to provide to me to keep up with the competition? Because that's what it's about. It's about competition, right? Isn't that good for consumers? Putting the pressure on your platform holder to actually do better for you? That's what